guys, welcome back to the Attachment Point News Roundtable. I got Jay Weintraub of InsureTech Connect on here. The only event I've been around where people are like frothing at the mouth, I see eyes open up. There's so much like excitement to get back in person and hang out. And people tell me like, you have to be prepared. You have to be ready for Vegas and InsureTech Connect. And I'm excited, Jay. I'm looking forward to my first time to participate. And thanks for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm excited that this is going to be your first time. So thank you.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, it's a legendary event. I've been pretty active around the space for about 3.5, 4 years. And as soon as I was in there, like ITC was on the radar, on the map. I kind of gravitated towards InsureTechs early because they're the only guys who give me a shot at running the business, when I was out on my own. So I was a little biased. But yeah, thanks for coming on today. And right now, let's check the date real quick. It's the 10th. I'm going to try to get this up on Monday, the 13th, just to give us ahead of time. And we got one more week at the discounted rate. And then,
That's right. No, that's right. We're going to, as much as I love when people spend money, I also don't mind if they save money too. So
exactly.
I don't want people getting stuck paying retail, but there'll be plenty of people who do, and that's fine too. I'm not going to discourage anyone from buying a full price ticket.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. That's very kind of you, And before we hit record, we were just talking about things we're excited about. You'd mentioned being in person, being fairly digitally native, super involved in, Twitter or whatever else. You can't be in person. Like I always think like an hour in person, you can make up for a year of online connections, Zoom, phone calls. There's just something about being around each other. It's so great.
No, it's so true. I was talking to somebody at one of the insurers that, where certain insurers are not going to be able to come in person and they can only do virtual. And so depending on who I talk to, some of them were sort of like, yeah, it's not the same, but I'll make the most of it. And I remember talking to someone and I said, great, well, you're going to join us virtually, right? And he basically said, no, I had the days marked off on my calendar. I'm just going to take a vacation. Because like there is nothing like being there together in person. And that's so for us, it's been, 18 months. It's been a lot of time. Yeah, really 2 years if you think about it, that we haven't had a chance to get together. So we certainly are excited for folks. And I got to tell you, I couldn't be more excited to hear that others are too, because clearly, of course, I'm going to be excited, right?
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, there's small stuff like even Ali Dalla from Fineo. I haven't seen him in person in 2.5 years. We're planning on triangulating there. And I've been working with that guy coming up on like 3 years now. I'm just thrilled to see some of my buddies. There's some people I haven't met in person. Some people I'm scared to meet in person because I've annoyed them on Twitter and pestered them a little bit. So that'll be good. All the above, bring it to real life. Yeah.
I think about it, the difference between virtual and in person. And I think, the hardest part, at least for us, right? I don't know, probably you're the same, is at the moment that you're sitting in front of a computer, it is just really hard to pay attention to something that is not right there in front of you. Because if something else pops up, you're going to do it. And so it's very hard to like force yourself to get the most out of it. And then the other thing that I think is oftentimes missing, it's the hallways. It's something that I've been doing events. My first event was in 2008. It was for the lead gen audience. And I used to get so upset when people were standing outside and not sitting in a session, because even today, I spend an amazing amount of my time recruiting speakers and literally obsessing over who speaks when, what room, how to be as sensitive as possible to all the different egos that are out there.
There's no egos around InsureTech. I don't know what you're talking about. Startup people don't have any, they're humble folk,
yeah. I mean, it's a great audience. Don't get me wrong, but let's just say that there are some number of speakers that have to speak at the last slot, and it's not always the easiest sell, right, if you will, and yet there is no bad slot, kind of at ITC here.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Honestly, like it's a cool setup you have going. Like I can open doors for myself. I'm fairly well known and all that. And then like I look at who's on the roster, who's speaking, whatever else. It's just another level. It feels like the major leagues, in a very cool way. And yeah, applaud you, man. You can definitely tell it's not your first go around. You guys have been doing this for a little bit. It's really cool. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to, doing some interviews. I'll be out there with insurance nerds, getting some content going. Thanks for being supportive of our community as well.
The only downside of insurance nerds is it's like, I don't know how you guys do it. I literally cannot like keep up, between like my Slack, I mean, it is such an epic community. I used to
Yeah.
think that there's no such thing as like a successful Slack community, because I've been a part of several of them, and they're just like crickets,
Yeah.
like crickets. And like insurance nerds, it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm like behind, and I'm just like, but to see how supportive, it is, how engaging, sort of like people are, is truly, truly special. So I mean, really, kudos to you. Sorry that we're
Oh,
agreeing with each other so much, because, and not disagreeing, like,
we could.
less drama here, I guess.
We'll come up with something. Yeah, I like the
Yeah.
Celtics. I'm trying to think what else could cause a problem. But no, it's cool. I would say some of the smartest, nicest people I've met working around insurance, and competitive too. They're not soft. There's some really ambitious folks, but for anybody who's not on, yeah, you should message me, message Jay. We'll get you an invite to the Insurance Nerd Slack. Really helpful. I feel like I have no excuse to not be successful in this industry with so many like talented, open people around. And the other plug I'll give forward is it's not like that self-serving. Like I've been in a few other Slacks, like a fintech Slack or whatever else, but it's like, here's an agenda, here's an agenda, here's an agenda. There's like people who enjoy their back and forth on there. It's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say this, that I used to run a LinkedIn group,
Hmm.
and it's just like almost sad, because it turns into just it's like a spam machine.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here's my thing. And so like, it's nice that insurance nerds, yeah, there's a handful of people that are always like, I'm going to beat my chest, and I'm going to, it's a fine line between like, I'm asking for help and I'm sort of,
Yeah.
soliciting something, but you have to like, those are like the so rare that's there. So I don't know. I don't want to jinx it, because it's, it's pretty special. And I also think it's pretty interesting. And maybe you could tell me how you guys have done this, where it's really hard to find people that are, in essence, could be competitive, but are sort of supportive and have this like, no, there's room for all of us to eat type of thing. Because, in other industries, like, right, everything's proprietary. No, I can't tell you this, because I don't want to take my business.
Well, my 2 cents on it, and this is just my like armchair psychologist, is different regions, 50 different insurance, departments, blue ocean mentality. Plus, I feel like it's all of us little guys. Like I'm never really feel like I'm competing with the guy down the hallway. I think we're all kind of competing against like Aon, for instance. Like there's plenty of business for all of us to eat. And I do think, it's been a really challenging couple of years, but people embracing the digital more. I think we're no longer feeling like we're stuck on Main Street. We kind of take our brick and mortar, our analog, and digitize it and stretch out a little more, which is really cool too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've been doing this for a while, so like you've seen it. So like, I'm really intrigued by this. So the origin story of ITC, some people have heard it, but it was, Caribou Honig and I got together in 2015. I started, I had mentioned, I started an event in 2008 for the online lead gen world. And I remember all of a sudden some people would register and they had Allstate domain names. And I kept thinking like, oh, wow, people from Allstate. And then I learned that they don't work for Allstate, they're agency owners. Totally didn't understand this concept. It was kind of amazing when I look back and think of how little I understood. But having had a chance to get to know them, I was like, wow, like this is amazing. It's just like, it's entrepreneurs who are figuring out a way to do great things and make a living. And so that sort of, for me, planted the seed of insurance is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard not to do the math and say, wow, I had a couple hundred insurance people attend. How many insurance people are there out there? If I'm doing an event, I should do an event for insurance people. And so I had been working on that for a couple of years until I met, sort of like Caribou, who as a VC is sort of like, I mean, I like, agencies and agents, but I would like a show that is not for them. So I need to convince you that if we're going to do something together here, it needs to be a much different, sort of like lens. But I can't shake this like agency angle. So that was a long setup for a question to you, really, around sort of can you take me through sort of like, and if you think about the last 3-4 years, because you've worked on the lead gen side, you've worked on leads, like you've done a whole bunch of stuff, where how has being an agent sort of like changed from like what you can sell and how you can sell? And because, even today, even though I was supposed to give you a question, I'm still talking. But even
I'm thinking through too. Yeah.
Even today, I would argue that if you're what is it? Is it? Hopefully, it's not a derogatory term to say single shingle. But I mean, like if you're like if that's your job, I would say ITC is not the event for you, because most people I know are they're like if it's like just them or them and one other person, it is about leads. It's about, I gotta like
Oh yeah.
tomorrow. And ITC is not a place where you're going to grow your book tomorrow. So yeah, I don't know. I just want to hear your thoughts because my dream is to continue to have an ITC, and help, sort of the agents and not just, mid-tier brokers who are a natural fit for us.
Well, I enjoy it. So for background, I worked leads for a year, networked into commercial. I kind of left it off because it was a short stint, but worked at a leads company for 5 months. I totally don't know if I knew what I was getting into, but I saw that side of it too. So that's what Jay's referring to. And then been independent for about 3.5 years, helped out at a benefits brokerage too. Where I am encouraging people to embrace InsurTech today is outside of their core competency. For instance, I have a friend who crushes it in trucking insurance in Texas, and she doesn't want to get into personal lines, but people bug her. So I'm like, just get them hippo and clear cover. They're in the states you're riding in. It's going to make them happy. It's going to take care of them. It's going to get it off your desk. I feel the same way if I get an inbound and I'm busy. I know Hippo is going to have a great price, great rebuild. It's going to take care of them. If I get a nice lead, small business owner referral from a friend, it might be a Travelers or a Chubb package. They're just different hunting spears. And, I was biased towards InsurTech because, the CoverWalt's of the world, Clear Covers, through First Connect in Texas gave me an opportunity early, so I was, favored them. But, I love the classic carriers, when they make sense. Not to plug too many things, but I work through Smart Choice for my PNC agency, and they tee up all sorts of different, carriers for me. So I think it's more about adding, tools to your golf bag, or clubs to your golf bag, and, place, time, and fit. I've actually honestly stopped thinking about insurance and InsurTech. It's like, what do I need? What is the problem? How can I help this person today? And, I'll hang out with Galad at InsurTech LA. I got not bummed, but when other brokers started showing up, I felt like they stumbled onto my secret. I liked being the one guy who actually touched the policies and sold in the room. Felt like I was kind of cheating. So I've enjoyed it.
It's so interesting to think about because when I was thinking about, InsurTech, what's so cool to me about InsurTech is that there is no one good definition. But I remember, so I used to I ran a kind of like a call center tech show for a little while. And what was so interesting, when I was, again, thinking about this is that all of a sudden in insurance, like if you had an idea for a product, you could get it built or done. I mean, I was talking to Adrian Jones. I don't know if he's a name that you're familiar with, but, so he used to work at SCORE, and he is now a venture capitalist with Hudson Structured Capital Management. But he is one of the smartest guys in insurance and InsurTech. And so when we were chatting the other day, and he was like, because there used to be like one fronting company, but for an idea. Like now there's like 20 or 50, or like what's amazing is like the ability to get like, I think the difference of like an MGA where it's one thing if you were able to just sort of like write it, but another like to help truly craft it. And so like the fact that like to you InsurTech means new products is really fun, to hear. And it doesn't just mean policy admin or something of the like. Yeah.
Well, what was interesting to me when I first came on the scene, they were like fearing InsurTech. InsurTech was coming. InsurTech was going to eat your lunch. And I was thinking like, the French built the Maginot Line and Germany just, like whoever has the best technology usually wins. And whoever fought the last war currently usually doesn't, so I'm like, hey guys, it's coming, like, sorry, and then we also heard about people leaving the industry and retiring. I just think InsurTechs can be doing more with less. And you'd asked about insurance today, not to plug too many things, but I use my buddy's app Risk Review, for fact finders. The Hazard Hub grabs the property data. I don't have my system synced up as much as I should or could, but for some people, they're going to be pulling Zillow data. It's going to go right in their radar. Information is going to cross-populate. It's going to mine Facebook for their clients' birthdays. There's some cool connected stuff. And I learned sales from some baby boomers. So my strength is just the ability to grind and take abuse. I got some buddies who are, really sharp.
Amazing. Yeah, my strength is to be able to grind and take abuse.
Yeah, that's a middle child of three brothers. Everyone but me was college athletes. Got self-deprecating German English Scottish on one side and Mexican humor. I'm half Mexican. Got the the salty humor on the other. But I have buddies who are like 30 and under that are like data mining and automated marketing, just doing some really cool things. And to them, it's not even like, they're not even thinking about it, it's just automatic, So I find myself somewhere in the middle and I'm hanging around these scenes to try to better my game. I joke I want to be Paul Bunyan with a steam powered axe, So that's the goal of all these conversations. Yeah. So are you excited though? Yeah, I mean, if it's been 2 years, you guys did a great job too. I know last year was I'll call it a year of iteration and being creative. I know Gala did a great job with InsureTech LA. That was the big one I tagged along for. But you guys did a great job last year. But yeah, you have to be jazzed to see, some old friends in person to kind of get back.
Yeah, I mean, yes. Short answer is like yes. Yeah. I'm thinking, right now I'm just thinking about, oh my gosh, I've got 3 weeks to lose enough weight to fit back into a suit. I'm sitting here, back into wearing the workout pants that really are just for hanging out in the house.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but it will be fantastic. I think about, I was talking to somebody else, and like this year is a special year. I mean, it's not just because we're back, but we have probably 300 different sponsors and partners. It's an epic number, but it's not just the number. I would say we've reached a point now where, again, the fact that you don't see a line between insurance and InsureTech, and the fact that you are now writing policies on some of these, sort of like InsureTech style companies. I really, to me, that tells us we've hit sort of a true sort of like tipping point where like there is a blend. And so I think about what's going to be in the exhibit hall, and it is truly our best collection of companies. And even from day one, the goal was, how do you have an exhibit hall that doesn't suck, that you actually want to walk around?
That's
and
cool.
Say, this is a place I want to spend time, not a place where you're going to turn your badge around because you are afraid of sort of like getting hit up. And
salespeople.
Salespeople. Yes. Powered axe coming for you. Hey, you look like a big piece of wood. So I think that is definitely something that we're excited about. And the look and the feel and the experience is really, I'd say better than anything we've ever done. So
that's cool.
That for us, like when we get excited, yes, I could point to the number of startups that we have, and oh, look at this person. Yeah, good example of it. When we started 2016, I don't know I should probably know, but I think the entire amount of money raised in 2016 for InsurTechs was certainly probably less than $1 billion. And you look at a company in Germany like WeFox, where their last round was over $600 million. So certainly a thing that's been on our mind right now is every year it feels like more money has gotten raised. Every year people talk about a bubble, they talk about certain things, and you wonder, like, is it sustainable? And so I think one of the things that someone told me is, with every bubble is a boom. And so it's easy to look at the bubble piece of it. Like when the internet bubble was happening, there was a bubble, but the boom behind it initially is actually a trend that is going to be enduring. And so I look at part of our job as InsurTech Connect is, just like in year one, we needed some of that sort of disruption, component to scare people enough to show up. The same thing here. This is not all about a hype. It's a blend between, you need some of that hype because it tells you what's going on, but you also need enough like substance. You can find that next partner that's going to like help you be more efficient and, like write more.
That's so funny that you mentioned like disrupt to like scare people to show up. I'm like, yeah, your message got across. That's all I heard from anybody. I was like, it's going to be okay. But says the guy who had nothing to protect. It's really easy to be not scared of disruption when, you're a single seat in in an office. No, I think it's phenomenal. And I love what you said about making sure it's what's the word I'm looking for? The trade show booth part where like it's worth going to. I'm a big fan of that, being honest with yourself and like, is this meaty? Is this something worth saying? Like, that's the hardest part, is looking in the mirror, making sure you're not just doing something and just having a bunch of yes people around you, but actually doing something of substance. That's cool. Keeping that in mind. Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like I spent years and years in the lead gen game, and every company needs leads. And at the end of the day, what is a conference? But in many ways, a place to get leads. But I think it's a fine line between everyone needs leads to help grow their business, but no consumer wants to feel like a lead necessarily. And so it's just important, sort of like, to me, is like we spend a lot of time, literally, it is kind of ridiculous that how much time we spend trying to decide how many tables do you have
Mm,
in the expo hall, because you know what happens if you have no tables to sit down at, people are going to come in and they're going to go grab food and they'll go somewhere else and spend their time. Too many tables and people will park themselves there and
mm.
they won't walk around. And so you need that right blend that says, oh, look, I'll sit down and eat, but then I'll get up and, like walk away. So I feel like some of the times like we're in this like, yeah, it's almost more like being a social engineer
Yeah.
than like anything else. But like we obsess over every piece of signage and every person. And I was spending, hours this morning, and, people would find, my team finds it ridiculous at some levels, but hours this morning over like what session goes at what time slot to try and, back to what I said before, like you want to tell a compelling story and you
Hmm.
want to like make sure that people are, kind of like engaged.
It's kind of interesting. It almost reminds me of like a restaurant tour combined with like a show. You know what I mean? Almost trying to come up with this arc, it sounds like, and set the setting. It's pretty cool. Um, and
I
then
used to take offense when I said I was in events and people asked me if I did weddings. I used to be like, no, no, but no, now I listen to myself talk and I'm like, well, maybe I am kind of more like a wedding planner, maybe.
that seems like a scary job. Some professional liability insurance there. To your point though, like it's kind of crazy with COVID and with work from home. I do think we hit kind of an interesting tipping point where, yeah, I think InsurTech is just insurance. I think people are just looking for tech across the board. I'm always a fan of simpler and effective, not tech for tech's sake, when something makes something more complicated. Um, yeah. So I think the winners so far have been, I'll call it pipes and simplicity seem to be the things that are making noise or helping out.
No, it's funny. We are a tech show. You look at the vast majority of exhibitors and sponsors, and there's some amazing tech
Hmm.
that's out there. And whether it's like you said, it's new products or if it's in cyber. I mean, embedded insurance is a
Hmm.
huge deal, sort of like this year. But when we look at like I think it's a good takeaway for all of us, what you said about being able to like grind it out, because like if you can grind it out, like it doesn't, you can out hustle almost anyone that has just great tech for
Hmm.
tech's sake. And so that's what we would say to folks too, which is like, you really have to come with a problem. I think it's two mindsets. You come to see the landscape, you come to see where people are spending their times, because it is, right? It does say, if you see like, oh, everyone's talking about embedded insurance, it doesn't mean it means anything to you, but it means that people are expecting some sort of shift in
Hmm.
distribution, some sort of shift in user behavior, so where they might buy it. Helpful, but doesn't mean all of a sudden you have to now go, put a checkout page on your own little website, that someone may have. So I think, kind of like coming in there, knowing what's going to help your business and not getting too distracted by the shiny objects, and understanding which shiny object is actually right for you is really important.
And it's such a funny balancing act too. I had a marketing buddy that says like ugly insurance websites make money. But then also sometimes you want to have the tools there to show that you're kind of up to date and you're modern. So like there's a whole artistry to how you present yourself to the consumer, in an effective way. It was an Abel Travis line that Tony Kanye kind of say a lot, but he's like, you need insurance and you need tech, like both of them are effective. And I've been around some really smart people that wanted to get into InsurTech but had no clue what they're talking about. And I've been around some people that really know the paper but don't realize they can make their lives a little easier with a little bit of tech. So hopefully find that middle ground. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. No, it just so true, so true. You're a wise man. You are a wise.
nah. Just lucky to talk to a lot of people. How big is the international sort of influence? Or I know we'll end up talking to guys from England or India, like I'll end up in different chats, but what
No,
percentage of the crowd ends up being from overseas?
so in a normal year, I would say, somewhere between 15% of it is from overseas, up to 20%. This is as much as we're back together is not a normal year. There are still an immense amount of travel restrictions from a large part of the world to be able to enter it. So, this year the international exposure is sort of limited. But I think about one of the fascinating companies coming is one called Turtle Mint.
Hmm.
And so you think about it's purely, it's an InsurTech company, but I mean, the numbers are at, something mind boggling. So they are they enable independent agents and agents. So between their captive agents and between their sort of, independent agents, I mean, I think they work with something like 70,000.
Wow.
It's some crazy number. And, the biggest thing is, so, what they, I'll have to talk to Drew Aldrich of AmFam. I don't know if you know him, but he's another, he's just a great guy. And he was trying to help me understand, that there was a shift that happened in India in terms of like how you could then buy insurance, and it wasn't just straight through the government. So it opened up, and it was all paper based. And so Turtleman came in and basically said, we're going to make sure that like you agent can sell easy digitally.
That's cool.
And I mean, just dramatic production increase, and all of a sudden access to products, and they've just built this amazing platform to turbocharge, right, the agent in there. So great story, great business. Super happy that they're going to be able to come in and people get to see them, because it's sort of like those ideas are what spark other great ideas or other partnerships.
And I feel so lucky that people are kind of headed this direction. And I don't want to steal too much time today. I'll sneak in one last little plug for Fineo, but kicking butt, doing some very similar work up in Canada. And I got fortunate to be an agent that had some flexibility down here, can help. But, we're so fortunate to be a landing spot for all this too. I know there's definitely others, centers in the world, but yeah, congrats on creating like the pinnacle event for a very, exciting industry. It's really cool.
Well, thanks. I mean, I think what has been exciting this year is it's, I mean, because there's no single definition, it means that there's something basically on everything. So this year, we have a broker-centric track talking all about broker tech. You mentioned benefits. We have a entire, pre-conference dedicated to the group space and like group tech. So I think if someone's interested in just about any, sort of thing, it's like the collection of communities that sort of like come together that make it special. It's almost like a food court. It's not one restaurant. It's
cool.
A bunch of things. You think of it as a food court or a mall. I don't know. Maybe hopefully some people listening actually know what a mall is. And
it's a party. Yeah.
Hopefully.
It's an insurance.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun.
A big old insurance bazaar, Yes. But I'll definitely have, the website on there for registration. Any other ways you'd want people to chase you down, or anything else that'd be helpful to get out there?
They can chase me down any way that they want: email, text, LinkedIn. I mean, certainly they should hit you up for, for discounts even after the price increase. We just, and honestly, like if they have any questions, it is the thing that's difficult about InsureTech Connect is, we probably will have at least 2,000 different companies there. It's not a small event. And look, getting value out of our show, it does take time and effort. There is a networking app that people can, sort of like get access to. But you have to like actually look and think about it. And you have to like, plan your day. It's not something that is just, I'm just going to take a flyer and show up and see what happens. But then again, it's the beauty of insurance. Like, if you are not willing to talk to other people, you're probably in the wrong industry. And so, it makes it ultimately like a friendly place to sort of come, but potentially, like it's intense. And, I don't know. I think when people ask us like what we're most proud of, it isn't just the number of people. I'd say it's the quality of people. I think about like a story, one of the story I've used quite a bit just because it's so perfect was there was a company, it's a Hover, HOVER. They had military application, it's computer using your phone to sort of get they have these fancy models that can help reconstruct, what the property looked like to sort of understand like pre-loss state.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, it was really interesting. Again, you think about like saves adjusters having to come out and empowers consumers, all about getting people back to their pre-loss state faster. They didn't really know if it was going to work or not in insurance, but they came to our show. They met AmFam.
Wow.
AmFam becomes their first investor. Second year they come. Pretty much the last meeting of the day was with Travelers. Travelers, I didn't know this, but Travelers calls us up and says, we want to talk about Hover. And they tell me a story where essentially they were almost going to like just pack it up for the day. And they said, we'll stay for our last meeting. They meet Hover, they do a deal together. it's now rolled out across, sort of their portfolio. I think Travelers is known for being one of the more like, very advanced ways of like using sort of like tech. And then, you think about like all of a sudden, like there are lives that are impacted for the best because of like, something that happened at a, at a conference or a trade show. And so that's what we, sort of like ultimately live for, is that kind of stuff.
I love kind of winding it down around claims, because I almost forgot in all the business development discussion, that's what it's all about, actually. When the proverbial stuff hits the fan, who's there for you? How do you get back together? How do we, keep society's wheels turning? That's the whole point of this whole thing.
And yet for the longest time, like finding claims tech was really like hard. I mean, I remember in the beginning, there wasn't a lot. It's as though, yet it's like the biggest line item of an insurance company, and yet it's like the willingness to invest in it. It really felt for the longest time like if it wasn't broke, don't fix it. Doesn't really matter. And yet, like I'm about to switch to a new insurance carrier, and what is the reason? 4 years ago, I had an incident, and look, the claims was just not handled like well, but it kind of stuck with me. And so like, you're right, like it is the chance to win, like a customer, right?
Now you got me on one last like tangent. It's fun to talk about sales. It's fun to talk about bringing money in, and it is painful to think about those calls about the shower pan on the second floor that's leaking into the kitchen that may or may not be covered. And I just think people are claims averse because it sucks. It's tough. Those people are saints that are out there trying to pay bills and put people's lives back together.
Is the one thing that I will love one day, like first, it's a good plug for an agent, because it's why I want to have an insurance agent, because I literally want, if something's happening, you need someone to talk to who feels like you have an advocate, and it's not a brand that is, like a nameless call center.
Yeah.
Person, nice as they are.
Yep.
But the other is, you think about like the big mystery today is like, do I file or do I not file? And you're like, one day I'm hoping that there'll be that sort of like calculator that says, all right, look, if you want to make a claim, this is going to be the impact on you. And if not, because otherwise we sit here and sometimes, and I say like, because if you don't use something, I mean, life insurance, I don't want to use my life insurance for a long time, but otherwise, I'd like to be able to use my insurance if it isn't just catastrophic. So I'm looking forward to that sort of, like experience one day.
I'll put that in the back of my mind, and as I'm trying to help out projects, so it'll be the I don't know, almost feels like a mutual play, a little bit more than a traditional carrier. But no, I really appreciate your time, Jay. And thanks for opening the door for myself and insurance nerds to participate this year. And thanks for kind of braving a tough, interesting year too. And, doing your best to set us up with a safe circumstance. And also just know the show's got to go on and we got to build, so thanks for, encouraging us all the way around.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. And thanks to everyone who was listening as well.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see you guys in Vegas. Get those tickets soon. Save some money.